Hey, what's going on, No Nation? It's CJ Wilson here with DoakTalk. Of course, I am your host. As you guys know, FSU is in the middle of their winter workouts, their tour duty workouts, and in the process of finishing that up, spring practice will be here before we know it next month in March. Do the same thing as we did last year. Just try to give you guys a pre-spring positional breakdown by each position: quarterbacks, running backs, receivers, tight ends, offensive line, defensive line, linebackers, and defensive backs. And we're going to do a specialist as well, a specialist video as well, just to kind of give you guys a preview of what the team will be looking like heading into spring practice. First up on the list is, of course, the most important position on the field, and that is the quarterback position. So we'll go ahead and jump right into it. FSU is going to look brand new at the quarterback position this upcoming year. The likely starter for the 2025 season is going to be Thomas Castellanos, as you get the transfer quarterback from Boston College. Played 2 years at Boston College. Within those 2 years, he gave FSU a lot of hell. If you go back to last year, he had a 300-yard pass and 100 yards rushing on one of the best defenses FSU has had within recent years. A defense that's full of NFL players, and of course, the NFL Defensive Rookie of the Year in Jared Verse. He pretty much did his thing against FSU as far as Thomas Castellanos. Within that year, in 2023, he had 3,300 total yards and 28 total touchdowns, running and passing, including over 1,000 yards rushing on the ground. You fast forward to the 2024 season, as you guys know, they did end up, Boston College ended up getting a new head coach in Bill O'Brien, a huge scheme change in regards to how the quarterback is used. Bill O'Brien is an old school type of guy going back to his days with the Patriots, and he has a certain look that he wants at the quarterback position. Hasn't been a secret, wasn't a secret at Alabama, even with Alabama's current quarterback. Just to be quite frank, Bill O'Brien wasn't a fan of the tools due to what he deems to be, what he wants in the quarterback position. You fast forward to this season, like I stated, under Bill O'Brien, he only had 1,300 passing yards, 18 touchdowns, and 5 interceptions. But the biggest takeaway is his rushing production went down drastically, just under 200 yards and 1 touchdown. He was later benched in favor for another quarterback later in the season for Boston College, which made him enter the transfer portal and take his talents to FSU. Now, from a scheme standpoint, fit standpoint, it's a dream made in heaven. It's a match made in heaven, so to speak. He's pretty much what FSU wants in the quarterback position. As you guys know, just give you some history on Thomas Castellanos. He was committed to, well, not necessarily committed. He actually signed to UCF under Gus Malzahn when he was the head coach. They ended up transferring to Boston College. Once Gus Malzahn became the offensive coordinator for FSU, it was pretty clear that Thomas Castellanos was going to be the guy that we target in the transfer portal, as that was Gus's number one guy, number one target out of the transfer portal. He was the guy he wanted to coach. He was the guy he wanted to develop and to play in his system in this new scheme. So I say that to say this: I really think Thomas is going to be a fit schematically for FSU, and I do think it's going to be an upgrade at the position from what we had this past year with DJU, Luke Cromahawk, and Brock Glenn under the fold. With that being said, the positions around them will be better too. But we'll get to those other positions at a later date. But speaking of just about the quarterback itself and Thomas Castellano, he has been taking on a, I don't want to, I guess you could say a sort of leadership role. I don't want to put leadership on him too quick, as you know, he's only been on campus a few months, hasn't really gone through spring practice or summer workouts or training camp in the fall, fall camp or anything like that. So, but he is doing a good job of doing all the right things that you're wanting a new quarterback to do in order to assume those leadership roles. When I say the right things, I mean having throwing sessions with the receivers. It's been pretty noted that he's been having throwing sessions with Squirrel and Deuce Robinson, the newly acquired receiver from USC, and Deuce Robinson. He's been having throwing sessions with Squirrel, Deuce, and a few other receivers since he's been on campus. Interviews, he's saying the right things and things like that. So we'll see how it plays out as far as, being that actual leader. But he is doing the right things in order to assume the leadership role. And like I said, from a scheme and fit standpoint, it's a lot of similarities between Jordan Travis and Thomas Castellano, especially with how they use their legs. And that's going to be something very important in Gus Malzahn's offense, as his rushing attack has been one of the better rushing attacks in the country. under his within his offense. So we'll see how things play out. But Thomas Castellanos is going to be the likely starter going into the 2025 season. And I think from a schematic standpoint and what he brings to the table as a playmaker is going to be an upgrade from what we had in the 2024 season. Moving on to the next quarterback, and that's Brock Glenn. Brock Glenn, excuse me. Brock is probably going to be the likely backup to Thomas Castellano. Had a rocky sophomore campaign, had only 4 touchdowns and 5 interceptions. Was the backup to DJU, then was the starter once DJU got hurt, and then him and Luke Cromahawk kind of flipped the starting position back and forth for the remainder of the season and just splitting reps and things like that. I expect Brock to have a jump from his a jump from last year to this year in regards to just being better overall, being more well versed within the system, and having better players around him. Quite frankly, I do think in 2024, we asked our quarterbacks to be the best player on the field for the offense, and that just wasn't feasible with you had, bad offensive line play, bad receiver play, and running backs that really weren't playmakers in regards to, making big plays, making someone miss a hole, things of that nature. So I do think Brock, as far as being the backup, I think it'll suit him well, and I think he would be better than he was this past year just due to circumstances and things like that. So we'll see how things play out with Brock Glenn going into this season. He has been taking on a leadership role, and this is something that Thomas Castellanos stated in regards to being welcoming to the new quarterback, showing him the ropes, kind of pretty much showing him what it's like to be a FSU quarterback and what it's like to be at FSU. As you guys know, Brock is the veteran of the group right now within this quarterback room, a very young quarterback room, but Brock is the current veteran of the group, so he is taking on that leadership role in regards to being in the system, knowing how the program works and things like that, and kind of showing the new guys the ropes. So look for Brock Glenn to probably be the backup quarterback going into this 2025 season, and look for him to be better than he was in the 2024 season. To be quite honest with you, I don't think you get any worse than it was in 2024. All right, moving on to the next quarterback within the quarterback room. That's Trevor Jackson. He's the guy that came in along with Luke Cromahawk, 4-star quarterback, ended up walking on to FSU. You guys remember Trevor Jackson was a part of the Elite 11. He did make the Elite 11 finals and all of that type of deal. So you have Elite 11 quarterback on your roster as well, Trevor Jackson, and you guys know he's a dynamic playmaker too. He's a guy that can do a lot of things with his legs, extend plays, make something out of nothing, and hell, do the same thing at FSU during the spring and during fall camp as a scout team quarterback and playing scout situations. He turned a lot of heads in regards to just the plays he were making. So Trevor Jackson is another guy to keep an eye on. I want to see how he continues to develop and things like that. But look for Trevor to probably be quarterback 3 and competing with Luke Cromahawk. No, I'm sorry, not Luke Cromahawk. My apologies. Competing with Brock Glenn for that second quarterback position, that backup position. Moving on to the last quarterback we're going to discuss, and that's true freshman Kevin Sperry out of Texas, the 4-star quarterback out of Texas. If you guys remember correctly, FSU ended up flipping Sperry from Oklahoma to Florida State a few days after Tramel Jones ended up decommitting. The long-time commit Tramel Jones ended up decommitting from Florida State. Standing at 6'1", 200 pounds. He's from Texas, like I stated, won a state championship this past year in Texas in one of the highest classifications that you could have in the state of Texas. Like I said, won a state championship, ended up going undefeated undefeated in high school doing this past senior year for Kevin Sperry. And you talk about moxie, how you carry yourself, all the right things. This kid just oozes confidence. I really love his game. If you look at his film, there's some similarities to Baker Mayfield, in my opinion, in regards to how they play. He's a great fit for the system, athletic kid, threw for 2,500 yards, 27 touchdowns, and also ran for 1,100 yards and 8 touchdowns. So you have a quarterback that ran for 1,100 yards, like I stated, in 8 touchdowns. In Texas, one of the highest classifications, one of the toughest classifications you could play Texas ball and win Texas ball. And you guys know Texas, in my opinion, top 3 in the country is in regards to the talent they produce. In my opinion, this top 3 is Florida, Georgia, and Texas. So if you get a good football player, a quarterback from Texas that won a state championship at a high level, you're getting a pretty competitive guy that has played some good football. But like I said, what stands out is that athletic ability and his system fit and how he fits within the system and what we want to do with the quarterback position. Literally every quarterback listed has some athletic capabilities. So we'll see how things play out. But I do like Kevin Sperry. I want to get him in and develop. It's a great thing as well that he's here for spring practice and going through the spring practice motion and getting those reps under his belt. So the quarterback position is going to be pretty interesting. It's a fairly young group with the new guy in Thomas Castellanos, like I stated, going to probably be the likely starter coming from Boston College. So we'll see how things play out going into this 2025 season. Well, not going to the season, spring practice rather, and see how Coach Malzahn, Norvell, and Tony Tokarz coach these quarterbacks up in regards to how they fit within the system, what we want out of the quarterback position, and get better production in putting these guys in the best position possible to be successful. Make sure you guys hit that like button and subscribe to the channel. Like I stated, we have more videos coming leading up to spring practice, position by position. Give you guys an overview of the position leading into spring practice. I think we'll go ahead and do running backs next. So go ahead and like that video, subscribe to the channel. Go Nobles.